Chapter 1992. The 13th of the 13 Great Bandits, Tu Ching, was killed by Gu Fei, provoking the leader of the 13 Great Bandits, the Iron Blood Taoist. Gu Fei and the Iron Blood Taoist faced off against each other through a transparent barrier. That Tu Ching didn't know what's good for him. He refused to submit to my master, so he died. Gu Zhong looked at the Iron Blood Taoist and spoke calmly. He could feel the Taoist's anger. This person was like an enraged beast and was currently in great danger. And who are you? A puny powerhouse. This isn't a place for you to interrupt. The Iron Blood Taoist shouted. The aura of a quasi-sage erupted from his body and pressed towards Gu Zhong, who was outside the sky. He wanted to show Gu Zhong his strength. However, Gu Zhong's expression remained unchanged under the pressure of this quasi-saint. He actually withstood the pressure without batting an eyelid. You! The Taoist couldn't help being startled that Gu Zhong was able to endure the pressure of a quasi-sage. Was this guy really only at the Almighty Realm? He was a little doubtful. Taoist Ironblood, do you dare to come out and fight? Gu Fei naturally knew that the Taoist was pressuring Gu Zhong, but he didn't stop him. He knew that Gu Zhong could withstand the aura of a quasi-saint. You're going too far. The Taoist was both shocked and furious. These two didn't seem to be simple at all. Just how did his subordinates provoke these two guys? If he were to find out who provoked these two fiends, he would definitely throw that person to feed the beasts. At this moment, the Taoist calmed down. These two dared to come to his doorstep. This meant that they weren't afraid of him at all. Especially that Gu Fei. He actually couldn't see through this person's depth. He knew that supreme powers like the Ziyun clan and the immortal palace of the Central Plains had a few self-sealing saints. These existences were the strongest in the human world. Before these existences, quasi-saints were like powerless children. Could it be that this person was one of those supreme antiques? I'll say it again. Surrender or die. It's your choice. Gu Fei said as he looked at the Iron Blood Taoist in the sky screen. He could sense that the qi and blood of the Iron Blood Taoist seemed to be stronger than that of an ordinary half-sage. The more powerful a cultivator's blood and qi was, the more powerful that cultivator's life force was. Cultivators with a strong life force were less likely to die. Just like Gu Fei, even if his martial body was destroyed, it could still be reconstructed in an instant. This is intolerable. Open the formation. I want to go out and kill these two arrogant fellows. The Iron Blood Taoist could not take it anymore. These two fellows were too despicable. They actually wanted to subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood flags with just the two of them. Boss, that person is Gu Fei. Ninth brother transmitted his voice to Taoist Iron Blood. So what if it's Gu Fei? The Iron Blood Taoist said impatiently. This Gu Fei defeated Ziyun Shao not long ago. The 9th of the 13 bandits continued. What? Damn it! The Iron Blood Taoist was shocked. He didn't know who Gu Fei was because he had been in seclusion when Gu Fei had appeared in the southern region. However, he couldn't ignore Ziyun Shao. Ziyun Shao was known as the greatest genius of the Ziyun clan in the past 1,000 years. He had already become a half-sage at such a young age. With enough time, Ziyun Shao would most likely become a saint. Although the Iron Blood Taoist had never fought Ziyun Shao before, he knew that he might not be able to defeat him if he were to meet him. This person had actually defeated Ziyun Shao. He truly did have the right to be arrogant. So, surrender or die? Gu Fei didn't want to talk nonsense with the Iron Blood Taoist. The Iron Blood Taoist only had two choices. With his current cultivation, he had to keep his word. As long as the Iron Blood Taoist didn't surrender, there was nothing else to say. If you want me to surrender, then you'll have to show me what you're capable of. The Iron Blood Taoist said. An existence like him would only submit to someone stronger than him. The strong would never submit to the weak. Very well. Gu Fei nodded. He knew that it was impossible to convince someone like the Iron Blood Taoist to submit to him with just words. In order to truly subdue these people, he had to show a few moves. As for avenging the 13th brother, no one would be so bored as to do that. The Iron Blood Taoist was furious because the 13th brother was one of his men. Gu Fei had killed his man and didn't give him any face. That was why the Iron Blood Taoist wanted to get even with Gu Fei. Bang! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei threw a punch at the sky screen in front of him. Primal Chaos Dao patterns faintly appeared on his fist. It looked like a casual punch, but in the eyes of the Iron Blood Taoist, it was an entirely different matter. Boom! When Gu Fei's fist landed on the sky in front of him, the entire sky shook. Countless runes emerged on the transparent sky, intertwining with the power of the Great Tao. Everyone was shocked. Gu Fei's casual punch had actually shaken the saint-level grand formation protecting the phoenix nest. It was truly unbelievable. The Iron Blood Taoist was also shocked by Gu Fei's punch. Although he cultivated the immortal bird mystic art, it didn't mean that he wouldn't die. An expert like Gu Fei might have a way to kill him. The Iron Blood Taoist didn't want to take the risk. It was known that it wasn't easy for him to become a demi-saint. After the saint-level grand formation calmed down, the Iron Blood Taoist surrendered. He had no choice but to surrender. His opponent's fist was harder than his own. In the world of cultivation, whoever had the harder fist was the boss. It was that simple. The Iron Blood Taoist personally opened the saint-level grand formation and welcomed Gu Fei and his disciple into the phoenix nest. The 13 bandits had now become the 12 bandits. No one dared to take revenge for the dead 13th Tu Qing. This was simply courting death. Tu Qing's death didn't matter. The others still had to live, and they had to live well. As the upper echelons of the 13 Iron Blood Banners submitted to Gu Fei, the forces of the 13 Iron Blood Banners also surrendered. Without much effort, Gu Fei and his disciple had taken down the 13 Iron Blood Banners. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were, after all, passers-by on the ancestral Buzhou star. In the end they would have to leave. There weren't many among the 13 banners who truly submitted to them. They knew this very well, so they didn't care about it. The first order Gu Fei gave after taking down the 13 banners was to find a way to the ancestral dragon star. The Iron Blood Taoist and the other higher-ups were dumbfounded. Where was the ancestral dragon star? Could it be another source of life outside of the ancestral Buzhou star? They had never heard of such a source of life. Chapter 1993. 13 Iron Blood Banners? Gu Zhong was startled by the man's words. He had stayed in the southern region of planet Buzhou for 3 years, so he naturally knew the distribution of the factions there. The 13 Iron Blood Banners was a bandit group that occupied the area between the southern region and the center continent. The leader of this bandit group was someone called the Iron Blood Taoist. The Iron Blood Taoist was quite a character. The 13 Iron Blood Banners had only existed for less than 1,000 years. The Iron Blood Taoist had integrated the 13 bandit groups in the southern region into one, and that was how the 13 Iron Blood Banners came to be. 1,000 years ago, the Iron Blood Taoist appeared out of nowhere and subdued the 13 bandits all by himself. The 13 bandits were no ordinary figures. Each of them was a powerful existence that could dominate the southern region. They were a huge headache for the Ziyun clan. The Ziyun clan had once sent out experts to eradicate the 13 great bandits, but even now, the 13 great bandits were still alive and well. After the Iron Blood Taoist subdued the 13 bandits all by himself, the bandits in the southern region of Buzhou grew even stronger. Many cultivators traveling between the southern region and the center continent were robbed by the 13 Iron Blood Banners. Some beautiful female cultivators were even taken to the mountains of the 13 Iron Blood Banners and became their wives. In recent years, the bandits had become even more arrogant. They even dared to attack cultivators from major factions, resulting in many cultivators being robbed. "Everything can be discussed as long as you let me go," said the man. His clothes were drenched in sweat. Although he was an immortal, he was as weak as a newborn baby before this person. He couldn't even muster any thoughts of resistance. The reason why these people became bandits was to survive. Thus, when the man realized that he wasn't Gu Zhong's match, the first thing he thought of was how to save his own life. The resources in the cultivation world were all in the hands of major factions. Some independent cultivators had nowhere else to go, so they could only become bandits that robbed other cultivators. "So what if I don't let you go? I'm not afraid of the 13 Iron Blood Banners." Gu Zhong didn't withdraw his right hand from the burly man's shoulder. Instead, he increased his strength, causing the burly man to immediately fall to the ground, unable to straighten his back. "Senior, please spare our lives. We were forced to do this." The burly man panicked. This person didn't even give face to the Iron Blood Taoist of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Could it be that he was an expert who could challenge the Iron Blood Taoist? If he provoked such a person, then he would really be out of luck. You actually dare to be on the streets outside the immortal venerable city? Aren't you afraid that the experts inside the immortal venerable city will come out and kill you? At this moment, Gu Fei walked over. The Celestial Emperor City can't even take care of itself now. How would they have time to care about us? The burly man quickly said. He wanted to show that he still had some value in front of these two people. In this way, he would have a higher chance of not being killed. You're not stupid. How could Gu Zhong not know what this fellow was thinking? It didn't matter if he killed such a person or not. An immortal-level existence really made him a little embarrassed to make a move. He withdrew his right hand from the burly man's shoulder. Thank you for your praise, senior. In the world of cultivation, we have to be careful. The burly man heaved a sigh of relief and stood up. At this moment, the burly man's dozen lackeys were still lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Their cultivation levels weren't high, so their fall wasn't light. No one cared about their life or death, not even the muscular man. He didn't even look at his lackeys. This was the cruel world of cultivation. Only those with powerful cultivation and strength would be valued by others. What's your name? Gu Fei looked at the burly man with interest. This fellow was really interesting. I'm An Wushang. The burly man answered carefully. An Wushang? Gu Fei couldn't help but laugh. This fellow's name was the same as his person. It was also very interesting. It seemed that this person really knew how to protect himself. Seniors, if there's anything that you can't do, you can leave it to me. I definitely won't disappoint you. You? What can you do for us? How laughable. Gu Zhong couldn't help laughing again. This fellow was just an insignificant immortal, and his abilities were very limited. In this grand world, even immortals would find it hard to protect themselves. However, An Wushang's words were very serious. Even if he was an ant, as long as he displayed his value, people would be interested. This was one of the experiences An Wushang had accumulated as an independent cultivator step by step to become an immortal. These experiences were incomparably precious and had allowed him to live until now. Yes. Take us to the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Gu Fei thought for a while before saying this. What? When An Wushang heard this, he was immediately taken aback. All sorts of thoughts quickly spun through his mind because of Gu Fei's words. He was thinking quickly, trying to guess what Gu Fei was going to do next. But he was disappointed. He wasn't Gu Fei, so how could he know what Gu Fei was thinking? Observing people's expressions was also a skill to survive in the cultivation world. An Wushang had already cultivated this skill to an extremely proficient level. But at this moment, he couldn't get any useful information from Gu Fei's expression because Gu Fei's face was completely expressionless. No one could tell what he was feeling right now. Master, what are you doing? Even Gu Zhong didn't know why his master would do such a thing. The bandits of the 13 Iron Blood Flags weren't easy to deal with, especially that Iron Blood Taoist. Rumor had it that he had successfully broken through the shackles of cultivation and became a sage-to-be. This was also the reason why the people of the Ziyun clan and the immortal revered city were wary of the Taoist. The Ziyun clan and the immortal revered city were indeed powerful, much more powerful than the 13 Iron Blood Banners. However, if a demi-saint went berserk, it would still be terrifying. Destroying the 13 Iron Blood Flags required a huge price. Thus, both the Ziyun clan and the Immortal Palace of the Center Plains were unwilling to lose manpower at this time. As long as the Taoists didn't go too far, the people of the Ziyun clan and the Immortal Palace of the Center Plains would endure it. This was the reason why the 13 Iron Blood Flags could survive in the cracks between the Ziyun clan and the Immortal Palace of the Center Plains. As long as the 13 Iron Blood Flags didn't cross the bottom line of these two supreme powers, they wouldn't touch them. Don't you think that the two of us are too weak? Chapter 1994. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were both powerful individuals, but there were only two of them. No matter how powerful they were individually, there were many things that were difficult to accomplish. However, as an expert, there was no need for them to do everything personally. As long as they gave the order, there would naturally be countless people who would work for them. This was the benefit of having one's own faction. And Wushang's words reminded Gu Fei that if he had his own faction on planet Buzhou Ancestral Star, it would definitely be much more convenient for him to get things done. He didn't want to borrow the power of other superfactions, because there would be many conflicts of interest, and those superfactions weren't good people either. Since he didn't want to borrow the power of other factions on planet Buzhou Ancestral Star to do things for him, There was only one way, and that was to establish his own faction. However, establishing his own faction in a short period of time didn't seem to be an easy task. However, the existence of the Iron Blood 13 banners saved Gu Fei a lot of time and effort. As long as he could control this faction, it would be enough. At night, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were led by An Wushang to a stronghold of the Iron Blood 13 banners in the mountains 1,000 miles away from Immortal Venerate City. This stronghold was a new stronghold of the Iron Blood 13 banners. Because the Iron Blood 13 banners had recruited many wandering cultivators in recent years, their faction had expanded very quickly. Because of the arrival of the Great Era, experts had appeared from all over the world, and the wandering cultivators on planet Bujo Ancestral Star were having an even harder time. In this Great Era, the most worthless people were rogue cultivators. If they encountered those people who came out from the big forces to gain experience, they would very likely lose their lives. For wandering cultivators like An Wushang, if they wanted to survive, they would have to join a powerful faction. However, for rogue cultivators, there weren't many powers that they could truly join. Those big sects wouldn't accept them because of the issue of loyalty. The disciples of large sects all entered the sect from a young age, and then they would cultivate and grow in the sect. It was the sect that nurtured them. The loyalty of such disciples was definitely much higher than those wandering cultivators who came to join a sect. A rogue cultivator would not have enough loyalty to the sect. Loyalty was something that needed time to be nurtured. However, a bandit force like the 13 Iron Blood banners had a much lower requirement for loyalty. After all, they were bandits to begin with. With the advent of the Great Era, factions like the Iron Blood 13 banners had a chance to develop rapidly. The Iron Blood 13 banners had developed quite well. Is it in bold? Just as An Wushang brought Gu Fei and his master closer to the stronghold, a loud shout came from a tall tower. Under the illumination of the torches, they could see a person looking out from the stone tower. "Old brother Chung. It's me, An Wushang." An Wushang hastily replied. He knew that if he hesitated in the slightest, Chung Datu would mercilessly attack him. Chung Datu was famous for not recognizing his own family. "And bold, what's going on? 13 people went out with you. Why did you bring back only 3? Did you run into a vicious character?" Chung Datu lowered the barrier at the front of the stronghold, letting An Wushang in. This stronghold was located in a mountain valley. The entire mountain valley had been turned into a stronghold by the Iron Blood 13 banners. There were fluctuations of a formation in the air above the stronghold. To enter the stronghold, one had to go through the stronghold's main gate. Today, the one guarding the gate was Big-Headed Cheng. Big-Headed Cheng's head was a bit larger than the average person's head. Adding on the fact that he was a bit shorter and smaller than other people, his head was very conspicuous. As a result, An Wushang and the others had given him a nickname, Big-Headed. Although Chung Datu's head was large and his body was small, he was still an immortal. His strength was even slightly greater than An Wushang's. Just this slight difference caused Chung Datu's treatment within the stronghold to be much better than An Wushang's. That was because Chung Datu didn't need to go out and rob people. It had to be known that being a bandit was a very dangerous occupation. You might run into someone stronger than you at any time, and you might lose your life at any time. And bold, you really are a lucky bastard. You actually managed to come back alive. Upon seeing An Wushang walk in, a few people who recognized him greeted him. Those two. But just at this moment, someone realized that the 2 people behind An Wushang weren't one of his lackeys. Whoosh! In just an instant, at least 5 people had surrounded An Wushang and Gu Fei. "How dare you? You must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall to dare to bring an outsider in?" At this moment, a loud shout rang out from the tower. Following that, a small figure jumped down from the tower. A short person with an especially conspicuous head appeared in front of An Wushang. "Cheng Datu, I also had no choice. These 2 seniors wanted to pay you a visit, and I didn't want to refuse. What do you think?" An Wushang stepped aside. "Who are you?" Chung Datu's heart couldn't help trembling. Someone had actually taken the initiative to attack their stronghold. This was a very rare thing. Ever since the stronghold had been built, such a thing had never happened. The others were incomparably nervous. It had to be known that only fierce dragons dared to cross the river. The fact that they had dared to come here was enough to prove that these 2 were very confident. So confident that they could easily exterminate everyone in the stronghold. "Call out the people in charge of this place." Gu Zhong took a step forward and expressionlessly swept his gaze over these people. These people were all immortals, but they had been reduced to bandits. Were immortals really that worthless now? Had they all become bandits? These people were all newly joined vagrant cultivators. They were very smart. Although they were on guard, they didn't take the initiative to attack. Just you wait. Cheng De was just about to go report. Which honored guest has graced us with your presence? Forgive me for not going out to meet you. Just at this moment, a voice rang out from the depths of the stronghold. A person walked out. This person only stopped when he was 10 meters away from Gu Fei's group. He then began to carefully examine Gu Fei and his disciple. Chapter 1995. I am the person in charge of this place. May I know why the two of you have come? If my men have offended the two of you, I will apologize on their behalf, the middle-aged man said politely. The middle-aged man was secretly shocked. He was secretly shocked that he couldn't see through the depths of these two people. Could it be that these two people were actually almighty? This time, he had really kicked an iron plate. This middle-aged man was the manager of this place, and his name was Bai Xiong. He wasn't some kind-hearted person. He had once annihilated 9 small sects in a single night. These 9 small sects refused to submit to the 13 iron blood flags, so he single-handedly annihilated them, leaving not a single chicken or dog alive. Even Cheng De and Wu Shang and the others would have to be careful in front of such a ruthless person, afraid that they would make a mistake. When he had seen Gu Fei and Gu Zhong, if Gu Fei and his disciples' cultivation had been below Bai Xiong's, Bai Xiong wouldn't have wasted time talking to them. He would have killed them directly. However, he didn't dare to do so now. Humph. You really know how to conduct yourself. When you came out just now, I seemed to sense killing intent from your body. Gu Zhong sneered as he looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. This middle-aged man had clearly wanted to kill them when he had come out. However, when this fellow could not see through O Yangming's actual strength, he completely withdrew his murderous aura. However, Gu Fei and his disciple weren't ordinary people. Most of their cultivation had come from fighting. The two of them had experienced countless battles of life and death, so their sensitivity to killing intent could be said to have reached the point of perfection. As long as someone had killing intent towards them, they would be able to sense it immediately. This fellow Taoist seems to have misunderstood. Why would Bai Xiong have such thoughts towards the two of you? The middle-aged man hurriedly said. His forehead was already covered in a thin layer of sweat. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was extremely shocked inside. Forget it, I can't be bothered to waste my breath with you. I will only say this once. Where is the headquarters of the 13 iron blood flags? If you know, tell me. If you don't, I will kill you. Gu Zhong didn't have the patience to waste his breath on these people. What? Bai Xiong was shocked. These two people were actually looking for the headquarters of the 13 iron blood banners? Did I hear wrongly? Where did these two people come from? Could it be a peerless expert from the Ziyun clan? Or a demi-saint from the Middle Continent Immortal Mansion? Everyone was stupefied, especially Cheng De and the others. What kind of person did Audacious and bring back? He actually dared to directly attack the headquarters of the 13 iron blood flags. Cheng Datu and the others couldn't help looking at An Wushang. An Wushang helplessly shrugged his shoulders. He also wanted to know their origins, but even if he had 10 times the guts, he wouldn't dare ask. This was one of the keys to survival as a rogue cultivator. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. Don't look at things you shouldn't see. If they spoke, they could live. If they didn't, the two of them would start a slaughter. That made everyone nervous, including An Wushang. In this stronghold, Bai Xiong was probably the only one who knew where the headquarters of the 13 iron blood flags was. The others had never been to the headquarters of the 13 iron blood flags. This was also a matter of loyalty. Only the core members of the 13 iron blood flags knew where the headquarters of the 13 iron blood flags was. At this time, the stronghold was incomparably silent. Even the breathing of Cheng Datu and the others could be heard. They were all looking at Bai Xiong. They didn't want to die. It had to be known that the reason why Cheng Datu and the other rogue cultivators had joined the 13 iron blood flags was to survive. If the 13 iron blood flags couldn't guarantee their safety, then why would they join them and listen to their orders? Oh! Seeing Bai Xiong hesitate, Gu Zhong couldn't help feeling a bit irritated. These bandits all had a baleful aura and weren't good people. Killing them would be as easy as lifting a finger, so he didn't mind sending them on their way. As if sensing Gu Zhong's killing intent, Bai Xiong's expression immediately changed. He also didn't want to die, but if he revealed the location of the 13 Iron Blood Flag's headquarters to these two, then the bandits definitely wouldn't let him off. He would definitely die without a grave. But if he didn't speak, then he would die immediately. Fellow Taoists, I'll speak. Bai Xiong's voice was trembling. If he didn't speak, then he would die immediately. Bai Xiong's loyalty to the 13 Iron Blood Flags was not as important as his own life. Very good. Gu Zhong smiled. Dealing with these loose cultivators was truly simple and direct, unlike those disciples from the great sections. It was truly difficult to get any information from the disciples of the great powers. The majority of rogue cultivators viewed their own lives as more important than anything else. That was because survival was their #1 priority. Gu Fei and his disciple quickly left the 13 Iron Blood Flag stronghold. They brought Bai Xiong with them, but they didn't bring in Wushang. The loyalty of rogue cultivators was a problem. These rogue cultivators could betray them at any time. Leaving in Wushang in that stronghold meant that Cheng Datu and the others wouldn't dare do anything to him. In their eyes, and Wushang had gotten lucky this time. Those two seniors had taken a liking to him. Without any suspense, after Bai Xiong left, and Wushang became the boss of the 13 Iron Blood Flag stronghold. His cultivation level was not the highest in the stronghold, but his brain was the best among all the itinerant cultivators in the stronghold. Otherwise he would not have survived. The 13 Iron Blood Flag stronghold was the Phoenix Nest. The Phoenix Nest was where the Iron Blood Taoist had made his fortune. It was here that he had obtained some sort of inheritance and cultivated his skills. The Phoenix Nest was actually a mountain valley surrounded by mountains. Beneath the valley was a spiritual cave that emitted spiritual qi day and night. It was also for this reason that the spiritual qi within the valley was much denser than outside. This place wasn't originally called the Phoenix Nest. It was only after the Iron Blood Taoist had risen to power that it was called the Phoenix Nest. That was because the Iron Blood Taoist had obtained the immortal bird mysterious art here. This was a mysterious art created by the ancient undying Taoist. When this mysterious art was cultivated to the greater mastery level, one could transform into an immortal bird. The Phoenix Nest's location was very hidden. The Iron Blood Taoist had laid down a grand formation to hide it. The Violet Cloud Clan and the Central Plains Immortal Palace had both tried to find the 13 Iron Blood Flag stronghold, but they hadn't found it in the end. Chapter 1996. Those guys from the 13 Iron Blood Banners really know how to pick a place. Early in the morning, Bai Xiong led Gu Fei and the others to a mountain near the 13 Iron Blood Banners base camp, the Phoenix Nest. Gu Fei discovered that there was actually a dragon vein under the mountain. This area was located at the border between the Central Province and the Southern Province. It was a lawless area, and spirit veins rarely appeared in such a place. One must know that any place with a spiritual vein would be occupied by a powerful faction. Of course, the 13 Iron Blood Flags could be considered a powerful faction at the border between the Central Region and the Southern Region. Master, is there anything special about this place? Gu Zhong was not like Gu Fei. Gu Zhong only had a smattering of knowledge about formations. He had spent all his energy on martial cultivation, so he did not know how to search for dragons, observe qi, and strike the acupuncture point. The dragon seeking here was not to search for a true dragon divine beast, but to search for the Earth's dragon vein. As for qi observation, it was because wherever there was a dragon vein, the heaven and earth spiritual energy above the dragon vein would be different. The so-called acupuncture point was to find the place where the Earth's dragon vein essence converged after finding the dragon vein. The place where the Earth's dragon essence converged was the spirit cave. If we follow the direction of this dragon vein, we will be able to find the Phoenix Nest. Gu Fei said. The 13 Iron Blood Banners base camp, the Phoenix Nest, must be built at the place where the Earth's dragon vein essence converged. This was inevitable. If one was not proficient in formations, it would be very difficult to find the Phoenix Nest. This was because formations and the terrain were inseparable. Some formation masters could use the terrain to set up terrifying killing formations to kill enemies stronger than themselves. Where did the formation's power come from? The Earth's dragon vein essence could provide an endless source of power for the formation. Seniors, since you can find the Phoenix Nest by yourself, please let me go. At this time, Bai Xiong could no longer call Gu Fei and Gu Zhong fellow Taoist. In front of these two, he was like a newborn baby, without any thoughts of resistance. This was because these two people were too powerful. To be able to become the manager of a stronghold of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, this Bai Xiong had to be an immortal king. Only with this kind of cultivation could he suppress those loose immortals. After all, those loose immortals were arrogant and unruly, and it was very difficult to restrain them. They would absolutely not obey those with lower cultivation than them. Unless this person had a powerful backer. Bai Xiong didn't have any backing. He was just one of the many core disciples of the 13 Iron Blood Banners, so he was rather loyal to them. Only such a person would know where the phoenix nest was. You want to leave? Whatever. At this time, Bai Xiong no longer had any value to Gu Fei and the others. It didn't matter if they killed him or not, because they wanted to subdue the 13 Iron Blood Flags, not kill him. Although it would be difficult to subdue the 13 Iron Blood Flags, it wasn't impossible. From what Bai Xiong had told them, the leader of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, the Iron Blood Taoist, was only a quasi-sage. Gu Fei was a great perfection quasi-sage and the Iron Blood Taoist wouldn't be a match for him. Many thanks to the two seniors for not killing me. Bai Xiong was instantly overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed to Gu Fei and the others, then turned and fled. The joy of escaping from death made him temporarily forget everything. Let's go. It's time for us to meet the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Gu Fei said as he directly soared into the sky. A powerful aura erupted from his body. He no longer hid his strength. Gu Zhong also flew into the sky. Enemy attack. While Gu Fei's corpse was no longer restraining its aura, someone sensed the aura being released from their bodies 100 miles away. Appearing near the phoenix nest, if it wasn't an enemy, then what could it be? The grand formation that enveloped the entire phoenix nest was activated. Beams of divine light soared into the sky, interweaving to form a gigantic transparent canopy that completely enveloped the phoenix nest. A sage aura permeated the air. Saint class formation? At this moment, Gu Fei and his disciple arrived in the sky above the phoenix nest. Divine light flickered below as countless Tao runes appeared. An incomparably powerful force was rapidly condensing. They were not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, they stood in the sky and quietly watched the scene unfold. One had to admit that the phoenix nest's defense was quite good. A sage formation could block all experts below the sage realm. Unfortunately, the ones who came this time were Gu Fei and his disciple. To Gu Fei, a sage formation wasn't unbreakable. It would just take him a little more time. After all, he had even broken through an extreme divine formation before. Who goes there? A loud shout came from the phoenix nest. Then, a dark red silhouette rushed out of the phoenix nest and into the sky. It was a young man with an incomparably dense murderous aura. From his aura, one could tell that this young man was definitely a battle-hungry person. Are you Tu Qing, one of the 13 great bandits? Gu Zhong took a step forward and looked down at the young man behind the transparent screen. Who are you? Could it be that the people from the Ziyun clan want to attack the 13 Iron Blood Flags? The young man named Tu Qing shouted. Tu Qing was extremely shocked. Since the establishment of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, no one had been able to find the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags and no one had dared to attack. But today, early in the morning, someone had come to kill them. The Ziyun clan? What is the Ziyun clan? Zi Yunxiao was defeated by my master. Gu Zhong said. What? Tu Qing was shocked when he heard this. Who were these two fellows? How could they be so arrogant? Even the most outstanding disciple of the Ziyun clan, Zi Yunxiao, was no match for these people. Very quickly, Tu Qing thought of a person, and his expression immediately became very unsightly. Your master, could it be Gu Fei? Tu Qing glanced at the people behind Gu Zhong and asked carefully. That's right, this is my master, Gu Fei. Today, we are here to ask for your surrender. Gu Zhong said indifferently. You, haha. Suddenly, Tu Qing pointed at Gu Zhong and laughed to the point of tears. Is it really that funny? You're going to cry soon. Gu Zhong's face was still calm. There was no expression on his face. At this moment, he wouldn't reveal any emotional fluctuations. You guys, are too funny. Haha. Tu Qing was still laughing, he couldn't help it. Gu Zhong's words were truly laughable to him. Two people could subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood Banners? This was one of the funniest jokes he had ever heard. Gu Fei's name had already spread throughout the entire southern region. Even in other regions of planet Buzhou, many people knew of Gu Fei's existence. However, no matter how strong Gu Fei was, he was not as strong as a saint. Although they had found the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, the Phoenix Nest was protected by a saint-level formation. Tu Qing did not believe that Gu Fei and the others could break the formation and enter the Phoenix Nest. At this time, from the valley shrouded by the transparent sky curtain, people continuously rushed out. These people were the core members of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Tu Qing, what's going on? A tall man wearing the same dark red armor rushed out. The killing intent on his body was much stronger than Tu Qing's. This man was simply a murderous demon king. Otherwise, how could his body condense such a strong killing intent? The killing intent on this middle-aged man was so strong that it was almost visible to the naked eye. Haha, Brother Joe, this is too funny. These two idiots actually want to subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood Flags with just the two of them. Tu Qing said with a smile. What? Ha ha ha. The man called Brother Joe also laughed loudly. You two are really brave. You actually want to subdue us with just the two of you? You're really stupid. Brother Joe had a boorish appearance and his voice was like a great bell. Even though there was a layer of sky curtain between them, his voice still spread far and wide. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong did not say anything, allowing them to laugh. After they had laughed enough, Gu Zhong said, "Surrender or die, it's up to you. Let us know when you've made your decision." Gu Zhong's face remained expressionless even after he said this. Tu Qing and Brother Joe could not see anything from his expression. Where did you guys come from? How dare you talk so big? Did you eat too much garlic? Brother Joe also laughed until tears came out of his eyes. From their point of view, this was indeed very funny. Even if it was the Ziyun clan or the Central State Immortal Mansion, no one would dare to say such a thing. The person behind this idiot is Gu Fei, who is currently in the limelight. Tu Qing said. What? Brother Joe was shocked. The 13 Iron Blood Flags were still very well informed. It was impossible for them not to know that Gu Fei had defeated Zi Yunxiao. As the saying goes, the shadow of a tree is the shadow of a person. Since Gu Fei could defeat a disciple of a sovereign clan like Zi Yunxiao, he must have some ability. Why aren't you informing Boss Tai? Brother Joe shouted at Tu Qing. Only the Iron Blood Taoist could deal with these two. If they were to go out, they wouldn't even know how they died. Fortunately, they had activated the formation. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable if that maleficent being allowed in. Is there a need to alert Boss Tai? Boss Tai is in seclusion right now. Tu Qing hesitated. One should know that the Iron Blood Taoist hated being disturbed during his cultivation. Tu Qing did not want to make Boss Tai unhappy. You! Brother Joe glared at Tu Qing, then turned around and flew towards the valley below. Have you made your choice? Surrender or die? Gu Zhong suddenly said to Tu Qing. Are you stupid? Of course I don't want to die, but I don't want to surrender either. What can you do to me? As one of the 13 great bandits, Tu Qing still had some pride. Your life or death is not up to you. Chapter 1997. Your life and death are no longer up to you. Gu Fei hadn't said a word ever since he had arrived, so his words stunned Tu Qing. Just as he was about to laugh, Tu Qing suddenly realized that Gu Fei's eyes had suddenly lit up. Tu Qing felt an indescribable suction force from Gu Fei's eyes that was tugging at his primordial spirit. This was no small matter. For immortal cultivators, the primordial spirit was their everything. If it was destroyed, then their souls would scatter. This was the most thorough way to die. Although Tu Qing was startled awake, the divine light in his eyes only brightened for a moment before dimming once again. This time, his consciousness quickly sank into darkness and his body fell from the sky. A ball of divine light wrapped around a miniature version of Tu Qing emerged from his body and floated in the void. This was Tu Qing's primordial spirit. His primordial spirit was lifeless and confused, as if it had lost its consciousness. Then, with a bang, the primordial spirit suddenly exploded. At the same time, a jade tablet in a pavilion in the Phoenix Nest suddenly shattered. What happened? Why did old 13's life tablet shatter? An exclamation came from the pavilion. Brother Joe had just descended from the sky and arrived at the entrance of the pavilion. What? Old 13 is dead? How is this possible? Brother Joe was extremely shocked. He had just been talking to Tu Ching, yet Tu Ching had died. Could Gu Fei have already killed his way in? Was this even possible? The phoenix nest was protected by a saint-grade array formation. Even Gu Fei would find it difficult to break the array and enter. Unless a true saint came, no one would be able to attack the phoenix nest. Brother Joe rushed into the pavilion and took a look. Indeed, Tu Ching's life tablet had shattered. In other words, Tu Ching was as dead as a doornail. Old 13. What's going on? Although the 13 great bandits had already been subdued by the Iron Blood Taoist, Tu Ching's death had enraged the other bandits. Revenge? If the opponent was weak, it would be fine. But if the opponent was too strong, who would go? Preserving oneself was the true nature of the 13 great bandits. As long as they could live, why would they care about the life and death of others? However, Tu Ching's death wasn't a small matter. They had to inform their boss. Otherwise, when he came out of seclusion and saw Tu Ching's death, he would definitely blame them. The 13 great bandits had never submitted to anyone, but this Iron Blood Taoist had convinced this group of arrogant bandits. They had no choice but to submit. Because they didn't submit, the Iron Blood Taoist beat them until they submitted. The few bandits in the pavilion hurriedly used a secret technique to inform Iron Blood Taoist, who was in seclusion. 13th is dead? A Taoist sat cross-legged in the spirit cave of the Phoenix Pavilion. This Taoist was absorbing the vast amount of spirit energy in the spirit cave and cultivating the supreme mystic technique of immortal bird. The Undying Bird mysterious art was a mysterious art created by the ancient Taoist Undying. Once cultivated to the great success stage, one could become a saint. Of course, this Iron Blood Taoist was still a distance away from becoming a saint. At this time, a message talisman flew into Iron Blood Taoist's secluded cultivation area. How is this possible? Who could kill 13th? Iron Blood Taoist's pupils shrank. 13th's cultivation had already reached the 5th heavenly layer. There weren't many people who could kill him. Who was this Gu Fei? There was very little information in the message talisman. It only mentioned that a person called Gu Fei had killed 13th, but that person still hadn't left. He killed my people and still hasn't escaped. How audacious of him. Iron Blood Taoist stopped cultivating and stood up. This Gu Fei must die. Otherwise, he would be called the boss of the 13 great bandits for nothing. Although he didn't want to come out of seclusion, he had no choice but to do so. Just as Iron Blood Taoist came out of seclusion, Gu Fei and his disciple were talking outside the phoenix nest. Master, your godly stealing secret technique is getting more and more superb. Gu Zhong said. Just now, Gu Fei used the godly stealing secret technique to pull out the primordial spirit of Tu Ching, one of the 13 great bandits. His primordial spirit was destroyed and Tu Ching's soul scattered. Although they were separated by a layer of sky curtain, it wasn't difficult for Gu Fei to kill Tu Ching. Tu Ching's death shocked the core members of the 13 Iron Blood Flags in the Phoenix Nest to the extreme. It was hard to imagine how Gu Fei killed Tu Ching under the protection of a saint-level grand formation. No one in the Phoenix Nest knew how Tu Ching died. Even the other bandits were the same. They couldn't find any damage on Tu Ching's body. This made the bandits look at each other in inexplicable horror. If you cultivate diligently, you can also reach my level. Gu Fei said. He had already passed on the 9 secrets of Immortal Path to Gu Zhong. The magic of the 9 secrets of Immortal Path was that any cultivator could cultivate it. Roar! At this moment, a furious roar came from the Phoenix Nest. The entire world shook as an extremely powerful aura burst forth. An extremely powerful aura appeared between heaven and earth. The main character has made his appearance. Gu Fei said. A figure rushed out from the depths of the Phoenix Nest. A terrifying aura shook the surroundings, causing everyone in the Phoenix Nest to tremble in fear. The aura was so powerful that it deterred everyone. Who is Gu Fei? Come out and accept your death. The person rushed to the sky and shouted. The entire void trembled along with his voice. That person is dead for sure now that Boss Tai is here. Some bandits were surprised and overjoyed, but others weren't so optimistic about the Iron Blood Taoist's chances. One should know that the invader was none other than the god of death, Gu Fei. The name of the god of death, Gu Fei, had long spread across the entire southern region of the ancestral star. However, the Iron Blood Taoist had already gone into seclusion some time ago, so he didn't know who Gu Fei was. This is going to be a battle between a dragon and a tiger. Brother Joe said something like that. Gu Fei might be strong, but Boss Tai isn't one to be trifled with. A bandit said. None of the bandits dared to get too close. One should know that they would be in deep trouble if they were caught in the crossfire. You're the Iron Blood Taoist? Gu Fei walked up and looked at the Iron Blood Taoist. The Iron Blood Taoist was a skinny Taoist. He wore a gray Taoist robe and had a delicate face. However, at this moment, this sage-like Taoist had a murderous look on his face. You're Gu Fei? You're the one who killed 13th? The Iron Blood Taoist stared at Gu Fei as a murderous aura spread from his body. The temperature around him dropped rapidly under the impact of the murderous aura. Chapter 1998. The 13th of the 13 Great Bandits, Tu Qing, was killed by Gu Fei, provoking the leader of the 13 Great Bandits, the Iron Blood Taoist. Gu Fei and the Iron Blood Taoist faced off against each other, separated by a transparent barrier. That Tu Qing didn't know what's good for him. He refused to submit to my master, so he died. Gu Zhong looked at the Iron Blood Taoist and spoke calmly. He could feel the Taoist's anger. This person was like an enraged beast and was currently in great danger. And who are you? A puny powerhouse. This isn't a place for you to interrupt. The Iron Blood Taoist shouted. The aura of a quasi-sage erupted from his body and pressed towards Gu Zhong, who was outside the sky. He wanted to show Gu Zhong his strength. However, Gu Zhong's expression remained unchanged under the pressure of this quasi-saint. He actually withstood it without batting an eyelid. You? The Iron Blood Taoist was shocked to see that Gu Zhong could actually withstand the pressure of a quasi-saint. Was this guy really only at the realm of great experts? He was a little doubtful. Iron Blood Taoist, do you dare to come out and fight? Gu Fei naturally knew that the Iron Blood Taoist was pressuring Gu Zhong, but he didn't stop him. He knew that Gu Zhong could withstand the aura of a quasi-saint. You're going too far. The Iron Blood Taoist was both shocked and furious. These two didn't seem to be simple at all. Just how did his subordinates provoke these two? If he were to find out who provoked these two fiends, he would definitely throw that person to feed the beasts. At this moment, the Iron Blood Taoist calmed down. Since these two dared to come to his door, it meant that they weren't afraid of him at all. Especially that Gu Fei. He actually couldn't see through this person's depth. He knew that supreme powers like the Ziyun clan and the Middle Ground Immortal Palace had a few self-sealing saints. These existences were the strongest in the human world. Before these existences, quasi-saints were like powerless children. Could it be that this person was one of those supreme antiques? I'll say it again. Surrender or die. It's your choice. Gu Fei said as he looked at the Iron Blood Taoist in the sky screen. He could sense that the qi and blood of the Iron Blood Taoist seemed to be stronger than that of an ordinary half-sage. The more powerful a cultivator's blood and qi was, the more powerful that cultivator's life force was. Cultivators with a strong life force were less likely to die. Take Gu Fei for example. Even if his martial body was destroyed, it could still be reconstructed in an instant. This is intolerable. Open the formation. I want to go out and kill these two arrogant fellows. The Iron Blood Taoist could not take it anymore. These two fellows were too despicable. They actually wanted to subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood flags with just the two of them. Boss, that person is Gu Fei. Ninth brother transmitted his voice to Iron Blood Taoist. So what if it's Gu Fei? Iron Blood Taoist said impatiently. This Gu Fei defeated Ziyun Shao not long ago. The 9th of the 13 bandits continued. What? Damn it! The Iron Blood Taoist couldn't help but be shocked. He didn't know who Gu Fei was because he was in seclusion when Gu Fei rose to prominence in the southern region. However, he couldn't ignore Ziyun Shao. Ziyun Shao was known as the supreme genius of the Ziyun clan in the past 1,000 years. He had already become a half-sage at such a young age. With enough time, Ziyun Shao would most likely become a saint. Although the Iron Blood Taoist had never fought Ziyun Shao before, he knew that he might not be able to defeat him if he were to meet him. This person had actually defeated Ziyun Shao. He truly had the right to be arrogant. So surrender or die. Gu Fei didn't want to waste time with the Iron Blood Taoist. He only had two choices. With his current cultivation, he had to keep his word. As long as the Iron Blood Taoist didn't surrender, then there was nothing else to say. Humph. If you want me to surrender, then you'll have to show me what you're capable of. The Iron Blood Taoist said. An existence like him would only submit to someone stronger than him. The strong would never submit to the weak. Very well. Gu Fei nodded. He knew that it was impossible to convince someone like the Iron Blood Taoist to submit to him with just words. In order to truly subdue these people, he had to show a few moves. As for avenging the 13th brother, no one would be so bored as to do that. The Iron Blood Taoist was furious because the 13th brother was one of his men. Gu Fei killed his man and didn't give him any face. Thus, the Iron Blood Taoist wanted to get even with Gu Fei. Bang! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei threw a punch at the sky screen in front of him. Primal Chaos Tao patterns faintly appeared on his fist. It looked like a casual punch, but in the eyes of the Iron Blood Taoist, it was an entirely different matter. Boom! When Gu Fei's fist hit the sky in front of him, the entire sky shook. Countless runes emerged on the transparent sky, intertwining with the power of the Great Tao. Everyone was shocked. Gu Fei's casual punch had actually shaken the saint-level grand formation protecting the phoenix nest. It was truly unbelievable. The Iron Blood Taoist was also shocked by Gu Fei's punch. Although he cultivated the immortal bird mystic art, it didn't mean that he wouldn't die. An expert like Gu Fei might have a way to kill him. The Iron Blood Taoist didn't want to take the risk. It was known that it wasn't easy for him to become a demi-saint. When the saint-level grand formation calmed down, the Iron Blood Taoist surrendered. He had no choice but to surrender. His opponent's fist was harder than his own. In the cultivation world, whoever had the harder fist was the boss. It was that simple. The Iron Blood Taoist personally opened the saint-level grand formation and welcomed Gu Fei and his disciple into the phoenix nest. The 13 bandits had now become the 12 bandits. No one dared to jump out to avenge the death of their 13th brother, Tu Qing. This was simply courting death. Tu Qing's death didn't matter. The others had to live and they had to live well. As the higher-ups submitted to Gu Fei, the Iron Blood 13 banners also surrendered. Without much effort, Gu Fei and his disciple had taken down the Iron Blood 13 banners. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were, after all, passers-by on the ancestral Buzhou star. They would eventually leave, and not many among the Iron Blood 13 banners would truly submit to them. They were well aware of this, so they didn't care about it. The first order Gu Fei gave after taking down the Iron Blood 13 banners was to find a way to the Soaring Dragon ancestral star. The Iron Blood Taoist and the other higher-ups were dumbfounded. Where was the Soaring Dragon ancestral star? Could it be another source of life outside of the ancestral Buzhou star? They had never heard of such a source of life. Chapter 1999. Time gradually passed. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye, yet the people of the Steel Blood 13 banners had not heard anything about the Soaring Dragon ancestral star. Perhaps it was because the Soaring Dragon ancestral star was too far away from Buzhou ancestral star that Gu Fei and the others could not have come to Buzhou ancestral star if it wasn't for a coincidence. It made sense that the cultivators of Buzhou ancestral star did not know about the Soaring Dragon ancestral star. Given the strength of the Steel Blood 13 banners, they could not find anything even after 5 years. Did they really have to venture into the human race's ancient path to the Middle Continent? There were still 5 years before the human race's ancient path to the Middle Continent's immortal mansion would open. For cultivators, the past 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Although 5 years was short, it was enough for a lot of things to happen. The entire Buzhou ancestral star was in an uproar after the news of the opening of the Middle Continent's immortal mansion was announced. However, there was a limit to the number of people who could step onto the human race's ancient path. Only the strongest 100 experts could step onto the ancient path. Countless cultivators were preparing for it, as no one wanted to miss the opportunity. 5 years later, a grand competition would be held at the Middle Continent's immortal mansion to determine the top 100. The 100 winners would then be able to step onto the human race's ancient path. Both the rising geniuses and the older generation cultivators were qualified to participate in the grand competition. However, there was an exception: the saints who had sealed themselves. The saints who had sealed themselves were not allowed to participate in the grand competition, as the ancient path was a path of cultivation for those who had yet to become a saint. Inside the spirit cave in the phoenix nest, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were sitting cross-legged on the ground, absorbing the dragon vein spiritual qi. Apart from them, the Steel Blood Taoist was also cultivating in the Spirit Cave. Among the entire Steel Blood 13 banners, only the 3 of them were qualified to enter the Spirit Cave to cultivate. The others were not even qualified to enter. Even the 12 Great Bandits were the same. Master, what do you think is going on with the Outworld Ancient Road? Gu Zhong asked. He had heard from Gu Fei about the ancient path of extraterritorial lands. There was an ancient path of extraterritorial lands on Kunlun Ancestral Star that led to the Buzhou Ancestral Star. However, that was a path of no return. The array that was constructed could only be used for one-way teleportation. Although Gu Fei had modified the teleportation runes, allowing for two-way teleportation, it was impossible for Gu Fei to return to Kunlun. There were 5 ancestral planets marked on the immortal divine metal. The Kunlun Ancestral Planet was the closest to the Buzhou Ancestral Planet, while the Buzhou Ancestral Planet was the furthest away from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Planet. Traveling across the infinite universe and returning to the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star was not a practical method. Sometimes, Gu Fei wondered if there was some kind of connection between the 5 ancestral planets that allowed them to travel to and from one another through the ancient roads of the outer domains. Where does the ancient path of the Buzhou Ancestral Star lead to? This is an uncertain factor. Gu Fei said. The ancient path of the extraterritorial lands was incomparably dangerous. It was a training path for the human race. If one wasn't careful, they might even die on the way. If it leads to the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, Gu Zhong's eyes lit up. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. You should know that the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star and the Buzhou Ancestral Star are separated by an infinite universe. Gu Fei didn't want to hurt Gu Zhong's confidence, but he had to say such words. No matter what, we have to give it a try, Gu Zhong said. He didn't want to be trapped in the Buzhou Ancestral Star for the rest of his life, because his family and friends were all there. Gu Fei nodded. Returning to the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star was a must, but the key was how to do it. If it really didn't work, then they would spend decades to travel across the infinite universe and return to the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. Since Gu Fei had his inner world, it wouldn't matter even if he had to travel for a long time. As Gu Fei and his disciple conversed, they didn't use voice transmissions. Even though the Iron Blood Taoist was cultivating at the side, he still heard their conversation. He was shocked by the vastness of this world. There really were other ancestral stars with life, and Gu Fei and his disciple were cultivators from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. Apart from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, there was also the Kunlun Ancestral Star, which made the Iron Blood Taoist realize that the Buzhou Ancestral Star wasn't the only source of life. In the vast and boundless starry universe, there were other sources of life. The human race's ancient path. The Iron Blood Taoist was tempted, but only the top 100 cultivators of the Buzhou cultivation world could set foot on the human race's ancient path. Since then, the Iron Blood Taoist didn't need Gu Fei's orders. He sent out the Iron Blood 13 banner spies to investigate the ancient path. The more he learned, the more shocked he was. The human race's ancient path was basically a path of no return. Of course, there were exceptions. Some people who took the path returned as unparalleled experts. However, most of them disappeared the moment they set foot on the human race's ancient path. Danger and opportunity coexisted. The ancient path was a trial for the top 100 cultivators of the Buzhou Ancestral Star. Those who could complete the ancient path could become unparalleled experts, or even saints. However, compared to those who became unparalleled experts, there were many more who died on the human race's ancient path. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong came out from seclusion and received all sorts of news, some of which shocked them. Zi Yunxiao of the Ziyun clan had appeared again. Wasn't he punished by Zi Su to face the wall for 1,000 years? Why did he come out so quickly? Gu Fei was surprised. Zi Yunxiao's younger sister, Zi Yun had also appeared out of nowhere. She continuously challenged demi-saints of the previous generation and was undefeated. It was not hard to imagine that Zi Yunxiao was able to come out so quickly. It was definitely because the human race's ancient path was about to open. The Ziyun clan did not want to miss this opportunity. Apart from Zi Yunxiao and his sister, the Golden Goddess of the Gold family had also ended her 7-year seclusion and walked out of her seclusion grounds. At the same time, several heaven-defying figures had also appeared in the Middle Continent. These rising stars had completely overshadowed the demi-saints of the previous generation. They took advantage of the rapid rise of the Great Era to compete with the demi-saints of the previous generation. In this era, there was no lack of geniuses. In 2 years, the great competition of the Middle Continent would begin. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were preparing. The Iron Blood Taoist was also preparing. He was also very interested in the human race's ancient path. All the cultivators who were interested in setting foot on the human race's ancient path were waiting quietly. The opening of the human race's ancient path had affected the mood of every cultivator. The performance of the younger generation was too eye-catching. The demi-saints of the previous generation felt great pressure. Chapter 2000. The Central State Grand Competition will begin in 3 days. The people of the Central State Immortal Mansion put up a notice stating that all cultivators, as long as they weren't saints who had sealed themselves, could sign up for the grand competition and compete for a spot on the human race's ancient road. Today was the first day, and there was a sea of people outside the Central State Immortal Mansion. Cultivators from the other regions of Buzhou Ancestral Star had arrived at the Central State Immortal Mansion. There was a row of tables in front of the entrance, and dozens of disciples of the Central State Immortal Mansion were bustling about. They were registering the cultivators participating in the Central State Grand Competition. Countless people were competing for the 100 spots. The competition was too fierce, but there was no other way. The Central State Immortal Mansion could only use this elimination method to eliminate the majority of the weak. Only the strong were qualified to set foot on the human race's ancient road. From morning to night, there was still a sea of people outside the Central State Immortal Mansion. The situation was too much for the disciples of the Central State Immortal Mansion to bear. The situation only improved on the second day, and the crowd gradually dispersed. However, there were still many people rushing to the Central State Immortal Mansion. On the third day, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong appeared. They had been secretly observing outside the Central State Immortal Mansion for 2 days, and they found that there weren't many true experts among the cultivators. The talents of the Central State Immortal Mansion didn't show up, nor did the Zi Yun Shao siblings. The Golden Goddess was nowhere to be seen, but these people were still able to keep their composure. The registration period for the third day would last until midnight. Gu Fei wasn't in a hurry. He planned to register at night since the true experts hadn't shown up yet, and he didn't want to show up too early. Gu Zhong wasn't in a hurry either, because he didn't plan to register at all. With his cultivation, it would be difficult for him to get a spot on the human race's ancient road. In the past 10 years, his cultivation hadn't broken through to the 5th heaven ascension realm. Even Gu Fei felt that this situation was a bit strange. At night, most of the cultivators gathered outside the Central State Immortal Mansion had dispersed, and only a few people were still wandering around. These people were those who hadn't decided whether or not to participate in the grand competition. Participating in the grand competition wasn't a trivial matter. They might be killed by their opponents during the competition. It's almost midnight. 2 people stood on a short mountain outside the Central Prefecture Immortal Abode. Yes. At this moment, Gu Fei discovered that someone was rushing towards the entrance of the Central Plains Immortal Estate. It was a woman clad in golden armor. She was none other than the Golden Goddess. These people have finally appeared, Gu Zhong said. He wasn't surprised at all. The disciples of the Central Province Immortal Mansion were not allowed to leave before the time of the world. However, if they arrived after midnight, then they would lose the opportunity to register. The Golden Goddess quickly left. After the Golden Goddess left, 3 more figures walked out from the moonlight and arrived at the entrance of the Central Prefecture's immortal abode. The 3 of them were the rumored 3 sons of the Central Prefecture. The 3 disciples of the Middle Prefecture weren't simple. They were all from the Middle Prefecture Immortal Manor. If they wanted to walk on the ancient path of the human race, they would have to sign up for the grand competition. There were no shortcuts. There were only 100 spots available. As long as one had the strength to enter the top 100, they would be able to step on the ancient path of the human race. However, if one's cultivation wasn't high enough and it was difficult to enter the top 100, then even the most outstanding disciple of the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor would be eliminated. After the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture registered, they chatted with the disciples of the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor for a while before leaving. Finally, when it was almost midnight, the Z siblings finally appeared. After registering, Zi Yuner sensed something and suddenly raised her head to look at the mountain where Gu Fei was. However, she didn't see anything. "Little sister, what's wrong?" Zi Yunxiao couldn't help but ask when he saw Zi Yuner's strange expression. It's nothing. Let's go. Zi Yunxiao pulled Zi Yuner away, but Zi Yuner was still mumbling. Was it just my imagination? Zi Yun seemed to sense that someone was watching her in the dark, but she couldn't find anything. Those who were supposed to be here had all arrived. Gu Fei also walked out from the dark, registered his name, received a jade token, and left. In the past few days, he saw that after everyone registered, the disciples of the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor would hand over a jade token to that person without saying anything. After entering the inner world, Gu Fei took a closer look at the jade token in his hand. I see. This was a messenger jade token. The jade token contained the name of Gu Fei's first opponent, as well as the time and location of the match, and other information. Who is this Lu Dafeng? Where did he come from? Gu Fei muttered to himself. His first opponent was someone called Lu Dafeng, but there was no detailed information about this person on the jade token. Tomorrow afternoon, Crouching Bull Mountain. Gu Fei searched in his mind. This Crouching Bull Mountain was a black mountain range 300 miles away from the Middle State Immortal Abode. This mountain range was shaped like a big black bull lying on the ground, hence the name Crouching Bull Mountain. I don't care who he is. I just hope this unlucky guy can withstand a punch from me. Gu Fei muttered to himself. Because he had a match the next day, Gu Zhong and the others did not disturb him. Soon, 24 hours had passed. Gu Fei walked out of his inner world and rushed to Crouching Bull Mountain. When he arrived, Lu Dafeng was already waiting for him. So you're Gu Fei. Come, don't waste my time. Tell me, how many celestial stones do you want before you admit defeat? When he saw Gu Fei, Lu Dafeng walked up to him and opened his storage bag. This guy's storage bag was filled with spiritual qi. It was obvious that there were many good things in there. Gu Fei did not expect to meet a guy like this in his first match. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Lu Dafeng was a big-bellied guy who was not even an immortal, yet he dared to participate in the Central Prefecture Grand Tournament. It was really a little embarrassing. This guy even tried to bribe Gu Fei, which made Gu Fei even more furious. Bam! Gu Fei did not say anything. He sent Lu Dafeng flying with a punch, searched the guy's jade pendant, and left. Oh my god, why did you have to hit my nose? Just you wait, I'm not done with you. Lu Dafeng's nose was bleeding profusely as he limped down Crouching Bull Mountain. He kept cursing Gu Fei. He had probably sprained his leg when he was sent flying by Gu Fei. Just as Gu Fei easily defeated Lu Dafeng, the jade pendant that belonged to him quickly sent him a message. 6 hours later, Mirror Lake, Busan Monk. Gu Fei was completely speechless. He even wondered if he was participating in the Central Prefecture Grand Tournament. Why were his opponents all the same? He had just defeated Lu Dafeng, and now there was Busan Monk. Chapter 2001. Mingjing Lake was really a good place. The scenery was beautiful. The weeping willows swayed in the wind beside the lake. There was even a pair of mandarin ducks playing in the water. When he arrived at Mingjing Lake, Busan was already waiting there. The monk stood on the surface of the lake. When he saw Gu Fei, he put his palms together and said to Gu Fei, "Benefactor, you were almost late. Being late is a bad habit. Making others wait for you is a sin in itself. Shrimp tofu, do you know what a sin is? Not only have you wasted your time, but you have also wasted others' time. Wasting time is equivalent to wasting one's life. Do you understand? Shrimp tofu, it's good enough to waste your time. Why are you wasting my time as well? Shrimp tofu. Shut up." Gu Fei couldn't take it anymore. This damn baldy was like a fly. No, it was a bunch of flies buzzing around him. It was so annoying. Shut up. You told me to shut up. Shrimp tofu, you actually told me to shut up. You. Busan wanted to say more. You big baldy, eat my fist. Gu Fei didn't have time to talk nonsense with this big baldy. Before the monk could finish speaking, Gu Fei had already punched him. The ferocious wind from his punch caused the monk to involuntarily shut his mouth that had been chattering non-stop. Bang! With just another punch, the third monk was sent flying. A string of beads of blood flew out of his nose. With a bang, he fell into the lake. This time, Gu Fei sensed the jade card on Busan's body. When he sent Busan flying, The jade card on Busan's body had already fallen into his hands. Without hesitation, Gu Fei crushed Busan's jade pendant. Then, he turned around and left. With a splash, the monk Busan emerged from the lake. "Outrageous, you shrimp tofu!" Busan started to talk again. However, this time, he was the only one showing off. Gu Fei had already left. He really didn't know how this baldy beat his opponent. Could it be that his opponent was defeated by his foul mouth? Very soon, new information came from Gu Fei's jade pendant. 2 hours later, Wu Yun Peak, Yu Xiaochuan, a girl. Gu Fei was a little surprised. His third opponent was actually a girl. It was an unfair victory. However, in order to step on the human race's ancient path, he had to kill whoever he met. Wu Yun Peak was 1,000 miles away from the Central Prefecture Immortal Abode. It was a mountain that was thousands of miles high. The peak was usually surrounded by clouds. To Gu Fei, he had enough time to travel 1,000 miles in 2 hours. When he arrived at Wu Yun Peak, Yu Xiaochuan was still nowhere to be seen. Gu Fei found a big rock on the peak and sat cross-legged, quietly waiting for the arrival of his opponent. Just as the time was almost up, a sword light flew over from afar and landed on Five Clouds Peak. The sword light dissipated and a person appeared. What? When Gu Fei saw this person, he was even more surprised. This Yu Xiaochuan was actually a man. Damn, was there a mistake? A man actually had a girl's name. "You are Gu Fei." Yu Xiaochuan's voice was gentle and delicate. It was a woman's voice. Moreover, he took out an embroidered handkerchief from his body and wiped the beads of sweat off his forehead. The orchid fingers that were pinching the handkerchief almost made Gu Fei vomit out the food he had eaten the night before. Damn, it was disgusting enough for a man to have a girl's name, but this man was also a sissy. That was really disgusting. Oh heavens, oh earth. What kind of people came to participate in the Central Prefecture competition? Gu Fei had the urge to go crazy. Be careful. I practiced the Jade Maiden sword technique. I'm coming. Yu Xiaochuan directly used the Imperial sword technique and attacked Gu Fei. Although this guy was a tall and sturdy man, his movements seemed to be even gentler than a real woman's. It can't be that he practiced the Jade Maiden sword technique and became like this, right? Gu Fei thought that it was most likely because of this. What a sin. Who was this sissy's master? A young man actually became like this. His master should be dragged to be fed to the beasts. Bang! Gu Fei punched out again, directly sending Yu Xiaochuan's flying sword flying. His fist landed on Yu Xiaochuan's face, causing him to fly backwards and bleed from his nose. You actually hit my nose and ruined my beauty. I'll fight you to the death. Yu Xiaochuan's hair was disheveled. Like a shrew, she crawled up from the ground and fiercely pounced towards Gu Fei. She looked like a tigress going all out. Ouch! Gu Fei was shocked by Yu Xiaochuan's actions. He immediately rushed into the sky and flew into the air. Fortunately, when he sent the sissy flying, he had already taken away the jade tablet from the sissy's body. Victory and defeat had been decided. He couldn't be bothered with the sissy on the mountain peak. He directly crushed the jade tablet and left the Five Clouds Peak. Just like that, Gu Fei rushed from place to place, constantly fighting with all kinds of people. In a single day, he had actually fought 12 battles. Amongst these 12 opponents, only a few were truly talented. Most of the others were just bystanders. These people couldn't even withstand a single blow. The first round of the competition ended at midnight. Gu Fei eliminated 12 opponents. The people who were eliminated in this round accounted for the majority of the competition. As for those who were truly capable, they wouldn't be eliminated so quickly. However, if they were to encounter Gu Fei, they would still be eliminated. Gu Fei returned to the inner world. Master, how did the competition go? When Gu Fei returned to the inner world, Gu Zhong came to greet him. At this time, Zhong Liming, Old Jiao, and Gu Fei's new disciple, Yao Yu, were all in seclusion. In the past 10 years, Yao Yu's cultivation had improved the fastest. With Gu Zhong's help, she had already become a demigod. In the past, this kind of cultivation speed was absolutely unimaginable. Hearing Gu Zhong ask about the competition, Gu Fei's face immediately darkened. Then, without saying a word, he walked into the place where he usually cultivated. What's wrong? Gu Zhong was left behind with a look of astonishment. Seeing his master's expression, Gu Zhong knew that something was wrong. He didn't dare to disturb his master when he was angry. Logically speaking, master shouldn't have lost. Just what could have made master so unhappy? Chapter 2002. After the first round of the Grand Tournament of the Central Province, the participants could rest for a day before continuing on to the second round. A day passed by very quickly. On the same day, when the sun rose from the east, the jade medallion on Gu Fei's body transmitted new information. This time, his opponent was a prodigy from the Central Province Immortal Manor. Just as Gu Fei received the new information, in a pavilion in the Central Province Immortal Manor, several white-haired old men were discussing. Is this really a good idea? They actually sent an outstanding disciple of our Central Province Immortal Manor to fight against this Gu Fei, an old man said. An old man said. From his tone, one could tell that he was somewhat worried. Gu Fei's performance was pretty good. In the first round of the competition, not a single person was able to receive a single punch from him. And today, in the second round, the people of the Central Province Immortal Manor arranged for an outstanding disciple of the Central Province Immortal Manor to fight against Gu Fei. This was very risky. This is the only way to test out this person's true strength. The reason we organize the Grand Tournament is to uncover the limitless potential of the human race. Another white-haired old man said. Eldest senior brother is right. The other old men agreed. This Gu Fei isn't a nobody. He rose to fame in the southern region and once defeated Zi Yunxiao. I want to see exactly how strong he is. The eldest senior brother said. What? This person actually defeated Zi Yunxiao of the Ziyun clan? The other old men were all shocked when they heard this. In the Central Province Immortal Manor, there were 3 most famous geniuses. However, other than those 3, there were also many less famous geniuses. The cultivation and strength of these geniuses weren't too far off from those 3 geniuses. Jun Wuya was one of the 10 prodigies of the Central Province Immortal Manor. He knew that his cultivation was definitely not weaker than those 3 senior brothers, but he wasn't as famous as them. Gu Fei. Why did the elders of the sect arrange for Gu Fei to be my opponent in the second round? Jun Wuya mumbled to himself. He did not understand. He knew about Gu Fei. 10 years ago, this person had defeated Zi Yunxiao of the Ziyun clan. Such a battle record could be considered extremely glorious. One must know that Zi Yunxiao was publicly acknowledged as the #1 person amongst the younger generation of the southern region 10 years ago. Zi Yunxiao came from the Violet Cloud clan, a sovereign clan. He possessed the bloodline of the Violet Cloud sovereign and was blessed by the heavens. His strength was without a doubt. For Gu Fei to be able to defeat Zi Yunxiao, it was enough to prove his strength. Thousand Zhang Cliff. Jun Wuya. At this moment, Gu Fei had already left his inner world and was rushing towards the Thousand Zhang Cliff. The Thousand Zhang Cliff wasn't very far from the Middle Prefecture Immortal Abode. It was only 800 li away. Soon, Gu Fei arrived at the Thousand Zhang Cliff. This Thousand Zhang Cliff was just an ordinary cliff. Not a single blade of grass grew on the top of the cliff. The top of the cliff was only 100 zhang in circumference, and it was filled with yellow sand and stones. By the time Gu Fei arrived at the Thousand Zhang Cliff, Jun Wuya was already waiting for him there. So you're Gu Fei, the one who defeated Zi Yunxiao back then. Seeing Gu Fei's arrival, Jun Wuya's eyes flashed as a strong battle intent was emitted from his body. So you're one of the top 10 heroes of the Middle Prefecture, Jun Wuya. Gu Fei came to a spot about 3 zhang away from Jun Wuya and sized up his opponent. Let's begin, Gu Fei said. This was a decent opponent with the strength of a quasi-saint. However, he was unlucky to have met Gu Fei. The outcome of this battle had long been decided. There was no suspense in the following battle. Jun Wuya still couldn't withstand a single punch from Gu Fei. Jun Wuya was defeated. Thoroughly defeated. He was thrown off the Thousand Zhang Cliff by a single punch from Gu Fei. Gu Fei did not kill Jun Wuya. Jun Wuya was only injured but not killed. It's still one move. The few elders of the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion were shocked by Gu Fei's methods. From the dazzling light mirror, they could clearly see every move Gu Fei made when he defeated Jun Wuya on the Thousand Zhang Cliff. How is this possible? Jun Wuya is one of the top 10 heroes of our Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion. Jun Wuya was defeated by Gu Fei with a single punch. The few elders of the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion in the pavilion were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that Gu Fei's battle strength was too strong. Who could defeat Jun Wuya with a single move? Gu Fei did it. Soon, the news of Gu Fei defeating Jun Wuya with a single move spread throughout the entire Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion. The entire Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion was shaken. Even the old Immortal Mansion master, who had been indifferent for many years, was shocked. The initiative of the Central Province Grand Tournament was in the hands of the Central Province Immortal Mansion. They could decide who would fight whom and where the fights would take place. Arrange for one of the three to fight Gu Fei. The old Immortal Mansion master personally oversaw the competition pavilion. Yes. The few elders immediately got busy. Those who could attract the attention of the elders were the absolute minority in the grand competition. The elders couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the others, and left them to their disciples to deal with. What a pity. I thought the top 10 heroes of our Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion would be on the list. The old Immortal Mansion master let out a long sigh. A defeat was a defeat. Although Jun Wuxie had good potential, as long as he was defeated in the grand competition, he would still be eliminated and lose the qualification to step on the ancient road of the human clan. Jun Wuxie was defeated. I'm looking forward to fighting with you. In the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion, a white-robed young man sitting cross-legged in a stone room said, Wu Daoyi, 800 Li Black Demon Ridge. After defeating Jun Wuya, Gu Fei's Jade Token soon received a message from the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion. When he read the message, he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Whether it was the opponent or the location of the competition, both surprised him. Wu Daoyi was one of the 3 sons of the Middle Prefecture, the most outstanding disciples of the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion. Wu Daoyi's cultivation and strength were definitely at the top of the top. To be able to fight such an expert was also a good thing for Gu Fei. Among the top 10 heroes of the Middle Prefecture, Jun Wuya's cultivation was below average, but Wu Daoyi's cultivation was definitely in the top 3, or even higher. As for the location of the competition, Gu Fei was also surprised. The Black Demon Ridge was not an ordinary place. It was a demonic mountain that had an indescribable demonic aura. Legend had it that in ancient times, it was the place where the great sage of the human clan had slain a demon. The mountains of the Black Demon Ridge were all black, very different from other places. Some people said that it was dyed with the demonic blood of a great demon that had been slain by the great sage of the human clan. In short, the Black Demon Ridge was an ominous place. Even birds wouldn't fly there, and no animals could be seen on the Black Demon Ridge. Moreover, the Black Demon Ridge was very far from the Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion. Of course, a distance of 10,000 li was nothing to an expert like Gu Fei. When Gu Fei reached the Black Demon Ridge, Wu Daoyi had yet to arrive. He possessed the world's fastest speed, and no demisage could catch up to him. There's something strange about this place. Could a great demon really have been slain by the great sage of the human clan here? When Gu Fei ascended the Black Demon Ridge, he could clearly sense the faintly discernible demonic aura exuding from the ridge. Although the demonic aura here was very weak, it was definitely there. Just as Gu Fei was about to carefully sense the demonic aura on the mountain and find its source, a powerful aura suddenly appeared in the sky. He's here. Gu Fei lifted his head and saw a white-robed man walking in the air towards the Black Demon Ridge. With every step this person took, a Dao pattern emerged under his feet. Wu Daoyi. When Gu Fei saw this person, his pupils involuntarily contracted. This was a young man, a handsome and radiant young man with a perpetual smile on his face. So you're Gu Fei. Wu Daoyi smiled and stopped about 15 feet away from Gu Fei. I heard that you defeated Jun Wuya in one move. You're really powerful. Wu Daoyi gave a thumbs up to Gu Fei. This is nothing. If you were to fight, I'm afraid you could also defeat Jun Wuxie in one move. Gu Fei said seriously. The difference in strength between the top 10 heroes of the Central Prefecture was indeed huge. This Wu Daoyi was very strong, at least much stronger than Jun Wuya. If Wu Daoyi were to fight Jun Wuxie, he would also be able to defeat him easily. Hee, Dao friend must be joking. Wu Daoyi said with a smile. Let's begin. Gu Fei didn't want to say anything more. He had already guessed that this so-called Central Prefecture Grand Tournament was actually controlled by the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor. His opponents would only get stronger and stronger. He was very much looking forward to which experts the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor would arrange to fight against him. All right then. Wu Daoyi smiled, and after that, his entire person suddenly disappeared from the spot. What? Gu Fei was taken aback. He instinctively took a step to the left, and with this step, he evaded a cold ray of light from Wu Daoyi. It was a silver needle. This? Gu Fei's heart pounded. These silver needles were almost transparent. If it wasn't for his good eyesight, he wouldn't have been able to see the trajectory of these silver needles. Other people hide daggers in their smiles, but this guy is hiding needles in his smile. Gu Fei didn't dare to be careless. It wasn't a good thing to be pierced by these needles. Great Sky Covering Palm. Gu Fei directly displayed his martial arts battle technique. A giant chaotic palm appeared in the void, emitting an unparalleled energy fluctuation, and slammed down on Wu Daoyi's head. The giant chaotic palm shrouded in all directions. Wu Daoyi couldn't avoid it, and could only take Gu Fei's attack head-on. Boom! With a loud bang, Wu Daoyi was slammed into the mountain by the chaotic palm. The entire Black Demon Ridge almost collapsed, and cracks appeared on the mountain. Through the dazzling light mirror, the old prefecture master and the others in the Central Prefecture Immortal Manor couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this scene. This kind of battle technique, could it be a long-lost martial arts battle technique? The old prefecture master said excitedly. The Central Prefecture Immortal Manor was different from ordinary forces. The Central Prefecture Immortal Manor had existed for countless years, and naturally knew many secrets of the world. In ancient times,